In this interview, you'll hear from Dr. Sheiveh Jones, Executive Director, Teacher Effectiveness and Preparation in the Human Resources Division. She speaks to the importance of relationships in grant management, especially when working with multiple partners. One of the grants Dr. Jones is currently overseeing is the Local Solutions to the Shortage of Special Education Teachers grant, which includes a consortium of 13 school districts.
Thank you, Dr. Jones, for joining us. If you wouldn't mind, could you start off by sharing your name, your title, and the department that you're with?
Sure. My name is Sheiveh Jones, and I'm Executive Director of Human Resources, overseeing teacher effectiveness and preparation.
And in your role or in previous roles, what has your experience been working with grants?
Well, in my current role, we have a few grants that we work with, and my experience has actually been really positive. And I'm probably one of the unusual people who loves grant writing. I think it's fun, especially with your support and guidance. But on top of my experience with grants, right now the Classified Employee Teacher Recruitment Grant, which we have been collaborating with multiple county offices. There's the Center on Teaching Careers, which was another collaboration with multiple county offices, and then the Local Solutions to the Shortage of Special Educators grant. But on top of all that, I have experience with accreditation, and there's a lot of similarities. So that's my experience with grants and also leading up to the grants.
So you mentioned that you have a current grant that has a lot of collaboration with other partners. What are some tips that you would recommend for our SDCOE colleagues that maybe have similar grants that involve a variety of stakeholders and partners?
My biggest tip would be build relationships and build them early on. Don't wait until a grant opportunity comes around. Be collaborative anyways, and build those relationships, whether it's with university partners, community partners, other county offices, other school districts. And then that way, when grants come around, you'll know which partnerships would be most conducive to that grant. And you'll be able to actually reach out and have the right conversations about the grant and how you see fit in the collaboration.
What are some of the lessons learned that you've gained thus far now that you have a few grants and your department is in the post-award phase? So you've been implementing now for a few years. What are some of the lessons that you've learned along the way?
Probably the biggest one is tap into your resources. So tap into the grant support at SDCOE. I think that is crucial to one success in writing to any grant. Also paying attention to timelines and really managing your time and planning ahead. And with the planning ahead, always plan to get the grant written far earlier than the due date so that you have time to go back and proofread, review the FAQs, and the part that we sometimes forget is the budget development that actually takes quite a bit of time. The other big lesson learned is aside from the actual grant writing part of it, once you're awarded a grant, really paying attention to timelines and the data reporting that takes place. Because what you don't want to do is scramble to collect data when it's time for reporting. You want to collect data all along. And then the last thing would be to just make sure that you're in communication with all the people involved. in the grant. So for instance, with the Local Solutions Grant, it involves 11 districts, including SDCOE, and there's continuous communication throughout the entire school year so that those stakeholders know where we are in the grant. They know that I'm going to be hitting them up for data at some point, and they know what kind of data they should be looking for.
Was there anything that you wish you had known about grants in general prior to implementing them that would have made your life a little bit easier?
I think the one thing that I wish I had known is that there's a lot of supports to tap into. So you don't have to do anything in isolation. There are plenty of experts, whether it's here at SDCOE or among stakeholders, where you can tap into their expertise. And then also, the other thing would be knowing that other people have written grants, and it's okay to take a look at those samples to get a sense of how it's written.
What has been one of your biggest challenges with implementing grant-funded projects?
The biggest challenge has really been tracking. So with the grant projects that we have, they all involve teacher recruitment in some way. And so part of our data collection is tracking the people who enter into the profession, and then people who may cycle out of the profession and or cycle out of the grant program. So tracking has probably been the greatest challenge. And that goes back to relationships, making sure that you have relationships with your stakeholders and communicating with them on the kind of information you're going to have to report.
And what has been your greatest joy in implementing a grant-funded project?
That's easy. I know the greatest joy has been to see how it benefits people who tap into it. So again, a lot of what we do with our grants is around recruitment, credentialing and recruitment. So I'll give you an example, classified employee grant. Just 2 weeks ago, I attended a graduation for 7 of the grant recipients here in San Diego County who graduated from SDSU and with a teaching credential. And that's just so gratifying to see that the work that we do at the county office, even though we don't always see the direct impact, that work really does have an impact, not just on those people who are recipients of the grant, but they're recipients of the grant who are very passionate about kids and passionate about teaching. And so that's going to impact kids.
As a director or executive director, is there anything that you would like to recommend that we might want to consider in those particular roles for supporting grants or staff who might be linked to grants?
Well, first of all, I would say everyone needs to roll their sleeves up and dig in. I may be an executive director, but I'm not afraid of rolling my sleeves up and digging in, because if there's staff who I'm going to ask for support in grants, I need to really understand what I'm asking them to do. And the only way to understand that is to experience it myself. So as far as staffing, I'm of the mind that before you staff up, and of course I'm in human resources, right? So before you staff up, really, really think about the intentions behind that. And is it just momentary for that grant? Is it something that's going to be long-term? What is that position really going to look like? And who is it going to impact?
Wonderful. Well, my last question for you is, moving forward, what role will grants continue to have, or that you would like to envision grants having as part of the teacher effectiveness program?
For teacher effectiveness and preparation, I really envision the grants continuing to support our recruitment efforts, particularly around diversifying the educator workforce and removing the barriers that we see when it comes to joining the teaching ranks.
Anything else, Sheiveh, that you'd like to share with our SDCOE colleagues about grants?
Just that I'm incredibly grateful for the support that's available here at SDCOE, from yourself and Michelle to our business service specialist, to just the team that I work with, who have an incredible amount of knowledge.
Well, I thank you, and I can see with you at the helm that grants will continue to flow into your teacher effectiveness program. So I thank you, Sheiveh, for your time and for joining us today.
Thank you, Gabby.